Parker stands at the edge of the valley with a quiet look on his face. The sun is barely rising, the air is cold, and his breath curls into the morning sky. Nothing around him looks unusual. The land stretches out like any other part of the Yukon. Trees, dirt, rock, and miles of empty space. But the look in Parker's eyes says something different. He feels something in the ground, a tension, a weight, something he cannot shake off. He knows this season is not like the others. He knows the land is holding a secret, and he is standing right on top of it, waiting for him to uncover it. And this is the moment where everything begins. The rumors had been floating around for weeks. Old miners and explorers whispering about a strange formation buried deep under the ground. A formation that didn't follow the normal rules of placer gold. Some said it was a twisted, ancient river. Others claimed it was a hidden pocket of untouched earth that had never been mined. No one knew the truth. No one had proof. But everyone agreed on one thing. Whatever was buried there had the power to change someone's entire future. When the first drone scans came back, Parker knew instantly that these weren't normal results. The screen showed bright pockets of material hidden under thick layers of overburden. The shapes were strange, almost like rivers trapped inside stone. Some twisted back on themselves. Some curved in ways that made no sense. The paths did not line up with old maps. They didn't follow the direction of natural water flow. In Parker's world, that was the ultimate sign that something rare was waiting underground. He studied the scans over and over. Every time the images flashed across the screen, Parker felt his heartbeat grow faster. This ground was either the biggest chance of his life or the biggest trap he had ever walked into. But instead of stepping back, instead of playing it safe, he did the thing everyone expected from him. He pushed forward. He placed his entire season on the line. He took every dollar, every machine, every crew member, and placed them on this one stretch of land. He wasn't trying to beat Tony. He wasn't chasing a number. He was chasing something deeper, something he felt was meant for him. Then the seismic readout came in. The crew crowded around the screen thinking it was an error, but the machine wasn't wrong. Deep below the dirt lay a paleo channel, an ancient riverbed older than any written record. But this was not a typical channel. It twisted and folded like something alive. It dripped through the valley in loops, dips, and sudden drops. It defied logic. Even the geologists admitted it. This formation was not supposed to exist. Some believed it was formed during a violent prehistoric flood, a disaster powerful enough to rip gold from the mountains and slam it into deep pockets underground. If the scans were correct, this channel could contain the kind of gold that gathers not for years, not for centuries, but for ages. The first test pans confirmed it. The gold wasn't sprinkled, it wasn't scattered. It was heavy, thick, clumped together like melted metal cooling in a river. Even the older miners who had seen everything could not find the words. They looked at each other wide-eyed. Everyone knew what this meant. This was not a good find. This was the kind of discovery miners become legends for. The machine screamed as they tore into the cut. Hydraulic arms bent under pressure. Sensors flashed warnings again and again, but Parker pushed the crew deeper. Every bucket of dirt felt heavier than the last. The pay was rich, thick, and irregular. The wash plant couldn't keep up. The material was too strong for one system. So Parker did the thing that only Parker would do. He set up a second plant right next to the first one, welding lines, linking pipes, and creating a wild patchwork system no manual would ever approve. It looked insane, but it worked. Until the groundwater came. A sudden surge burst through the lower cut, pushing icy water into the pit at terrifying speed. Machines scrambled to escape. Pumps roared non-stop. The ground shook under their boots. One wrong move and the entire site would collapse. But instead of panicking, instead of shutting everything down, Parker walked straight toward the rushing water. He knelt, scooped the muddy pay dirt into his hand, and watched gold streak across his glove. The gold was fighting to stay hidden. That meant they were close to something huge. The crew watched Parker carefully.
They knew this look. It was the look he got when he crossed the line inside himself. The line where fear didn't matter. The line where he would push the land harder than anyone else would even dream of. The entire air around the site changed. Everyone stood straighter. Everyone worked harder. Because they knew the next few hours could change the entire season. To confirm his instincts, Parker ordered a full LIDAR scan across the ground, a deep grid analysis that could see further than their eyes ever could. When the scan loaded onto the screen, the crew went silent. Under the earth were several sealed chambers, perfect hollows created by violent natural events thousands of years ago. Metallic signals pulsed from inside them, so dense that the software stalled and recalibrated again and again. This was no normal deposit. This was something else. A vault. A natural vault built by the earth itself, filled with gold compressed over lifetimes. The next morning, the machines roared to life. They tore deeper into the fractured quartz and mud. When the first cleanup tray came in, the crew felt nervous. What if the scans were wrong? What if the ground was different than expected? But then the mats were shaken out, and the room fell completely silent. The gold didn't come out like normal gold. It didn't fall like dust or flakes. It came out in heavy ropes, thick clumps, and smooth nuggets the size of shot glasses. The gold slid across the table like thick syrup. The numbers skyrocketed. They crushed their entire previous season with a single cleanup. The crew felt like they were watching history happen in front of them. But Parker wasn't smiling. He wasn't cheering, because he knew the truth. Numbers like this don't bring comfort. They bring danger. A season that starts this strong either becomes impossible or ends in disaster. And soon everyone in the Yukon heard the rumors. Some said Parker had found a cursed formation. Others claimed it was a once-in-a-century gold strike. Rivals began tightening their boundaries. Old maps resurfaced. Survey notes scribbled with warnings. Clues that miners long ago had sensed something strange about this land. Tony began pushing deeper into his old cuts. Rick sent scouts to search for the upper channel. Everyone wanted a piece of whatever Parker found. Then the storm hit. The sky opened with roaring rain. The walls of the cut trembled. Gravel slid. The eastern wall gave out in a violent collapse. A loader at the edge nearly fell into a deep slurry pit. The crew rushed with ropes, pulling, shouting, slipping through mud. They saved the machine, but the collapse shook everyone.
Whispered about shutting the site down. The ground was warning them. But then Parker saw it. Freshly exposed, gold-laced sediment glowing under the lights. It wasn't normal pay dirt. It was thick, dense, ancient material sealed away for thousands of years. The collapse had opened the door to the next level of the channel. He looked at his tired crew, mud-covered, soaked, exhausted, and he gave the order. They were going in. Carefully, slowly, but they were going in. At dawn, they worked like a new army, rebuilding walls, bringing machines in, pushing deeper with controlled movements. The pay dirt was richer than anything they had ever seen. The mats filled so fast they overflowed. The second plant was fired up again. They were racing against time. Then it happened. The numbers crossed 1,000 ounces before lunch. The crew went quiet. Cameras captured every moment. Then 1,500 ounces. Then 2,000 ounces before sunset. $1 million day. A real, measured, undeniable $1 million in 24 hours. But the ground had more to give. The deeper they dug, the more they began to understand. They weren't just mining a rich pocket. They had found the heart of the ancient river, the mother pocket, the center of the entire formation, the purest gold Parker had ever pulled, higher purity than any past season, higher than historic claims. This pocket was the reason the channel existed, the reason the gold was so dense, the reason the numbers were unimaginable. And Parker knew they were reaching a point where no miner had ever gone. Then disaster struck. A loud snap cut through the air.
The primary wash plant's central shaft sheared in half. Metal shards flew. The plant fell silent. This kind of break usually shut down a site for days. But Parker didn't have days. He didn't even have hours. So he grabbed a welder, pulled off his gloves, and worked through the freezing night. Sparks filled the air. Pipes rattled. Everyone watched him force the plant back to life. By dawn, the plant roared again. The final cleanup began. The first tray overflowed before they could level it. Gold poured like a sheet of metal. The scale numbers flew upward, faster, higher, higher still, past every record that Yukon had ever seen, past every season ever filmed, past every myth, every story, every legend. They crossed $120 million. The crew froze. The cameras froze. Even Parker stood still staring at the number. He had done it. He had become the miner every other miner would be compared to. Not because he bragged, not because he chased fame, but because he pushed deeper when the land tried to stop him. Because he chased something no map could show. The season ended not with noise, but with awe. A pile of gold so bright it lit the room. A haul so massive it didn't look real. Parker didn't cheer. He didn't yell. He just breathed slowly, knowing he had crossed into history. This was more than a season. This was the moment Parker reached the level of legends. Parker stands at the edge of the valley as dawn barely touches the Yukon horizon, his breath curling into the cold air like smoke from an unseen fire. Nothing around him looks unusual, just endless trees, rock, and frozen earth. But something in the ground hums beneath his boots, something ancient and heavy that refuses to be ignored. For weeks, whispers of a strange underground formation drifted through mining camps, tales of a river that defied nature or a hidden pocket untouched since the beginning of time. When the first drone and seismic scans returned, Parker knew immediately this wasn't normal gold country. Twisted rivers of material coiled inside the rock like veins of an ancient beast, pushing him toward the biggest risk of his life. He threw everything he owned onto this land, every machine, every dollar, every ounce of faith, and dug into a paleo-channel so violently formed it broke geological rules. The first pans came back thick with clumped, syrup-like gold, shocking even the oldest miners. The ground shook with groundwater bursts and collapsing walls, but Parker pushed harder, building a second wash plant from scrap in an act of pure desperation. Storms ripped through the valley, machines nearly fell into slurry pits, and still the gold poured out, richer, heavier, purer with every bucket. When the mats overflowed with nuggets the size of shot glasses, when they hit 1,000 ounces before noon, when the scales crossed $120 million in gold, the entire crew froze in disbelief. But Parker didn't smile. He felt a tension in the earth, a warning buried deeper than the gold. Late that night, alone in the cut, he felt vibrations pulse through the soil. The next round of deep LiDAR scan revealed the truth. The channel was only the beginning. Beneath it lay a colossal hollow cavern, older than any map, packed with metallic signatures so intense the software glitched trying to read them. As the screen flickered and the crew stared in stunned silence, Parker felt it again, that pull from the earth, that sense that destiny was buried deeper. His $120 million season hadn't been the end of anything. It was the doorway to something far more dangerous, far more powerful, and far more unbelievable than any miner before him had ever dared to imagine.
Interference, but Parker knew better. He had felt that vibration in the ground long before the scans, long before the season heated up. It was the same feeling he had the first moment he stepped foot onto this land, like the valley was breathing underneath him. And now, after breaking every record the Yukon had ever seen, he understood why. He climbs down from the plant and walks toward the lower cut, boots sinking into the wet clay as he approaches the fresh wall collapse from earlier in the storm. The mud is still glistening under the lights, gold specks shining faintly in the mixture like stars trapped in earth. Parker kneels beside the wall, running his hand across the sediment. It's different here, thicker, heavier, layered in dense mineral ribbons that shouldn't exist in modern geology. The collapse didn't just expose more pay dirt,
It revealed a vertical seam of compressed quartz and riverstone unlike anything he'd mined before. Parker presses his ear to the wall. A faint rhythmic pulse moves through the stone, a distant echo like water flowing far beneath them. But this isn't water. It's deeper, older, more deliberate. The next morning, he calls a meeting. The crew gathers around the folding table inside the canvas tent, eyes red, faces tired, still buzzing from the $120 million cleanup. The air is thick with steam from their coffee cups and the weight of what they've discovered. Parker lays out the new scan results, pointing to the cavern outline, the glowing metallic zones, the strange geometric hollows that make no logical geological sense. Mitch shakes his head, rubbing his temples. "This isn't mining anymore," he mutters. "This is something else." Fred looks at Parker with worry. "You go after this and you're risking everything. The season's wrapped. You've already made history. Walk away now and you're the king of the Yukon." But Parker doesn't move, doesn't blink. He taps the screen where the cavern is drawn. "This," he says quietly, "is why the channel was gold-rich. This is why the ground felt alive. This is the source." His voice lowers, and no miner has ever seen it. The room goes still. Parker explains the plan. Controlled excavation, slow descent, reinforced walls every 5 feet, constant seismic monitoring, no machines deeper than 20 meters without tether lines. The crew listens, a mix of fear and awe tightening their faces. They know this isn't just another cut. This is a gamble with the unknown, the kind of gamble that writes legends or grave markers. By midday, the machines roar back to life. Excavators bite into the new wall, carving away at the thick, ancient layers. Mud pumps churn non-stop. Survey instruments beep in nervous rhythms. Every scoop of dirt brings them closer to the cavern, and the deeper they go, the more the ground begins to behave strangely. Temperatures fluctuate between warm and freezing. Dust hangs unnaturally in the air, shimmering under the lights like gold fog. Some of the crew swear they hear faint rumbling, like distant thunder beneath the soil, but no storms are in the forecast. Parker pushes them forward, checking every measurement himself, watching the readings spike and dip in chaotic patterns. At 4:37 p.m., the ground beneath the excavator shifts. Just a tiny movement, barely noticeable. The machine rocks. The operators freeze. Seismic monitors scream warnings across the tablet screens. Parker rushes to the edge of the cut, heart pounding. The readings show a hollow directly beneath the machine, larger than estimated, stretching farther under the valley than any scan could map. They're standing on the roof of the cavern, thin, fractured, and ready to give way. "Shut it down!" Parker shouts. Engines die instantly. Silence falls. The only sound is the faint trickle of water dripping deep below, echoing through the hollow chamber. Parker steps forward, kneeling at the edge, brushing aside loose gravel. Beneath it, he sees it. An unmistakable sliver of open void. A thin crack that glows with faint, warm light reflecting off something metallic far below. Not gold dust, not quartz, something solid, something massive. He stares into the crack, breath trembling, eyes wide. They haven't just found a cavern, they've found something inside it, something the earth hid for thousands of years. And now Parker knows with absolute certainty, this season didn't lead him here by accident. The land wanted to be found, and what lies below is only just waking up. The crew gathers at the edge of the cut, their boots crunching over loose stone as they peer down at the thin fracture exposing the darkness below. The valley is unnervingly quiet, too quiet for the Yukon. The wind stops, the trees still. Even the generators seem to hum softer, as if the entire landscape is holding its breath. Parker crouches lower, brushing away more debris with gloved hands. The crack widens just enough for a faint, metallic glimmer to pulse from the cavern beneath, reflecting in his eyes like a golden heartbeat. No one speaks. No one moves.
The men who joked about ghosts and cursed ground earlier in the season suddenly stare into the earth like children staring at the open mouth of a sleeping giant. Mitch steps forward carefully. "Parker," he whispers, "if that roof goes, it'll take half the cut with it." Fred nods sharply. "We need to pull back, reinforce, rethink." But Parker shakes his head slowly, eyes locked on the shimmering glow beneath them. "We're closer than anyone has ever been," he says, voice low, almost reverent. "This isn't just gold. It's something the earth trapped down here, something that survived every flood, every freeze, every shift." He runs his fingers along the crack again. It's warm. The soil around it is cold, but the air seeping from the cavern is strangely warm, impossibly so. They set up floodlights, scaffolding, and anchor lines as the evening turns to night. The sky glows with faint northern lights, green ribbons dancing silently over the valley, casting eerie reflections across the mud. It's as if the sky itself is watching. As the crew braces the wall, Parker orders a micro-camera probe lowered through the fracture. A tiny light flickers to life on the tablet screen. The camera drops into the darkness, illuminating the cavern inch by inch. At first, all they see are walls, smooth, curved walls that look more carved than naturally formed. The texture is wrong, too refined, too uniform. Then the camera swings downward, into the center of the cavern. Every single person freezes. There, sitting in the cavern, like a giant heart of the earth, is a massive slab of metallic stone, far larger than any boulder, far smoother than natural rock, streaked with veins of dense gold and something else, something dark and reflective like obsidian fused with metal. It pulses under the camera light, slow and rhythmic, like it's breathing. No one says a word. Goosebumps ripple across every arm in the tent. "What is that?" Mitch mutters, stepping back instinctively. The camera moves closer. The metal isn't jagged. It's polished. Too polished. Edges curved by time, but unmistakably shaped by force. Nature didn't create this. Something else did. Something ancient. Something stronger than flood or ice. Parker studies the screen with unblinking intensity. "That's why the gold's been pooling here for thousands of years," he says, voice steady but trembling with awe. "This thing, whatever it is, it's acting like a trap, a magnet. The river wasn't carved around it, it was dragged toward it." Suddenly, the ground beneath them rumbles. A deep, rolling vibration shakes the scaffolding. Gravel rains down. The camera jerks violently, swings sideways, then static. The feed cuts out. Alarms blare from the seismic monitors. The cavern roof groans. Cracks spider across the earth at their feet like lightning trapped in soil. "Everyone back!" Parker shouts. But it's too late. With a deafening roar, the cavern roof collapses in a thunderous cascade of stone and soil. The ground gives way beneath the excavator, swallowing half its tracks. Mud and rock explode upward in a choking cloud. Floodlights flicker, swinging wildly as cables snap. The entire valley seems to roar in rage. Workers scramble up ropes, slipping, shouting, pulling each other out of sliding earth. And Parker, rushing toward the collapse, not away, sees it. Through the dust, through the chaos, through the screaming earth, a huge section of the cavern has broken open. And the metallic slab, larger than a pickup truck, glowing faintly under the shifting lights, now sits exposed in the open air, steaming in the cold night like a relic torn out of time itself.
The gold veins shimmer, the dark metal glows, and deep inside it, something moves. Just for a moment. Just enough for Parker to see. He stops dead in his tracks, chest tight, breath frozen. Because whatever is inside that ancient metal, whatever has been buried under the Yukon for thousands of years, whatever pulled the river, the gold, and now his entire season into its orbit, is finally waking up.